Let's turn our attention now to the Arizona Cardinals, a team that they are gone shopping this offseason. They've gone shopping. They gave big money to Josh Sweat, the edge rusher defensive end out of Philadelphia. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson, brought in Calais Campbell, Akeem Davis-Gather, LJ Collier. They re-signed Zay Jones, Will Hernandez, brought in Michael Walker. They did lose a fan favorite of the podcast, Roy Lopez. He went to the Detroit Lions. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, make sure you go and check out the Detroit Lions episode. It was a lot of fun poking fun at Adam. They also lost Julian Okwara, Zach Pascal, Chris Barnes. Did have for a lot of people, a very strong draft. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle at 16. They picked in the first round from Mississippi. They took Will Johnson, the out of favor cornerback from Michigan, who really dropped to the 47th pick. Brought in Cody Simon from Ohio State. Well, two Ohio State guys. So Cody Simon and Denzel Burke, the linebacker and cornerback, which obviously Andrew, being an Ohio State fan, will know all about them players. Adam, this team feels like it's on the cusp, but we always sort of say we sort of know what's wrong with this team, and I think it's their defense is never strong enough, and they just need a little bit more offensively going for them. They've made these moves. They brought in Marvin Harrison last season. They've now really reinforced that defense. Like, do you think this is the Cardinals finally moving in that right direction?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think that that's kind of the hope from making all these moves, isn't it? Especially on the defensive side. I mean, you've drafted Walter Nolan, a young defensive end. You've brought in Calais Campbell. I mean, who would be better to teach him what to do? So it's kind of that thing where it's like that there's some joined up thinking going on here, which is a little bit rare for the Cardinals, shall we say? But it's definitely an improvement and something that I think will help them. Josh Sweat obviously had a great season with the Eagles, so you sort of got to feel that that's a positive move. Will Johnson, we all liked Will Johnson coming out of college and had him as like at the beginning of the process, like a top 10 pick. So it's like, obviously he's fallen down the boards because of injuries and stuff like that. But I think that he'll be really good. And yeah, I mean, there's some other guys obviously in the draft, and it's been very sort of defense focused, hasn't it? That's kind of what this has been about this offseason. And I think that they're a team that needed to do that and need to improve dramatically on the defense. And I think that they've probably gone out and done that, and they've got rid of some guys who were maybe not quite good enough for them defensively. When it comes to the offense, I think it's pretty much as was. Not a lot has changed, and it's going to be about Marvin Harrison sort of improving going into his second year. Trey McBride obviously is a very reliable target for Kyler Murray, and hopefully the O-line will hold up. I think that's the one area where there's not been a great deal of change, and it's about whether or not the O-line can hold up so that run game can continue under James Conner and Trey Benson. But yeah, the defense was the weak place and the weak part of the team, and I think that they've done quite a lot in order to improve that. So I think they have to look positively. Obviously, they went 8-9 last year. You've got to feel that they have potentially become a playoff team here. I think this is a very tough division, and because of what they've done, in theory, they've improved, and so you've got to look at them in that way in the NFC. But it's a very tough division, so I feel that they'll probably fall out because of who they're playing against in this division. But they've made all the right moves. It's just about executing it now.
Oh, I mean, how dare you say they will, cut some of the fat when your man Roy Lopez? I mean, you didn't think he was good enough, no?
I didn't. I said some of the fat. I didn't say that Roy Lopez was some of the fat.
Maybe it was his brother Ray Lopez.
It might have been his brother Ray. Yeah.
Indeed. Andrew, this is a bit of a loaded question, I suppose. I think that Kyler Murray is slowly getting into that category of like Dak, of like, we could probably do better is underachieving, came in with all this promise, has had some very, very positive moments, but ultimately isn't the quarterback that's going to take you to the promised land. Do you think that's a fair or unfair thing to say? Because I think he's getting dangerously close now.
Before you brought it up, that's exactly like if you came to me, it was the first thing I was going to say is you brought in all these nice pieces on defense. You've got some good pieces on offense, and if Harrison kicks on and Trey McBride, but is Kyler Murray the guy to take you there? That was literally where I was going, because we saw last year that offense. 1 week you'd be going, wow, look at it, 40 points on the board, this is great, and then next week you go, barely managed to put 10 on the board, looked really ropey, it wasn't great. And I think that stems from Kyler Murray, really. I think that it was him that was kind of orchestrating those ups and downs a little bit. Like, I know Marvin Harrison didn't get off to the start that we thought he would coming into the league, but I find it's maybe Kyler Murray that's the up and down guy in this. And I think that's where they're going to struggle. Yes, the defense is better. Yes, they're not going to be any shootouts if they are putting 40 points upon the board, but I do think they're just going to be a bit of a stalemate and be somewhere where they were last year. I think it's still going to be up and down in terms of games. I don't think we're going to see the consistency. New faces, youngsters. I don't think they've overly strengthened on the offense, particularly. They haven't really brought any names in for the offense at all, have they, that are going to start? So, is Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch sort of a good supporting cast for a young guy that didn't perform in Marvin Harrison last year? Or is it just going to be a hell of a lot of Trey McBride and James Conner again? And then Kyler Murray kind of scrambling around and doing the best. I do think that if it doesn't work this year and you're around the same sort of, we'll call it 500. I know you can't go 500 anymore, but sort of that 8 and 9, 9 and 8, whichever you are, it doesn't matter which way around you are you going, we need to do something different? So is moving on from Kyler Murray and trading him and trying something different there, right? Does Jonathan Gannon keep his job if it doesn't progress this year? I think there's a lot of question marks with them. I'm not as high as a lot of people on saying they're going to be close to maybe challenging in this division and the playoffs. So I'm just not there with them. I think there's too many question marks. There's too many consistency issues, and Kyler Murray is the factor for me for that.
Do you not think that the point of improving the defense is so that you don't have to get as much out of Kyler Murray, though? Like, they probably understand that there is a limitation to what they're going to get from him and that offense because they haven't improved it. So there is only so much they're going to get. But by improving that defense, obviously, in theory, it should mean that you don't have to score as many points.
But it was the inconsistency, Adam. Like I say, there was games where, there's games where he scored really highly and then games he didn't do anything. Now, it's not the defense's fault that he just didn't manage to move the ball or look good in the pocket or deliver the passes correctly. That's not the defense's fault. That's his personal issue with consistency in games. He can throw. Yeah, he's got a great arm. Yeah, he's got good mobility, but I can see him dart balls down the field and go, wow, look at that. And then his next pass is just going like, wait, is he a rookie still? Like that's not defense. That's just him.
No, but I mean, the defense will improve. Therefore, in theory, they don't have to score as many points.
Yeah, but like I said, it wasn't a points issue. It wasn't a Bengals
No, but
issue.
I mean now. I understand what you're saying previously, but obviously now it's like this is out. They're looking at it for this season coming up, where it's just that thing where it's a little bit like, if we can become a strong defensive team, it just means that we don't have to put up as many. But I mean, to a certain extent, it's similar to how your Giants have decided to go. It's almost like we've become a very strong defensive team. Therefore, we don't have to rely on the offense to put up as many points. Now, I'm not saying that he will have games where he'll barely do anything, because that's just what he's like. And therefore, the defense can only do so much for you. But obviously, if the defense does more for you than what it's done before, in theory, it means that he doesn't have to do as much.
But we're in a points league, aren't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But there are teams like Joe Burrow.
Again,
yeah,
but you say again with the Giants. The Giants are doing the exact same model where they're not winning that many games, but they are having a really good defense. And then,
I could say the Steelers.
But
I could agree, but I think we put up a lot more points than the Cardinals and the Giants do.
Yeah, and I also think that this defense is not the Steelers' defense. You know, the Steelers'
Oh no,
defense
absolutely.
win you games. We're saying that they brought in Calais Campbell, they brought in Dalvin Tomlinson. You know, they had some nice pieces with Will Johnson. Like, I'm not saying they've not gone out and got themselves a top 5 defense. They've improved in a defense that was awful last year. It's not improved massively, and there's three rookies that you're relying on stepping up big time in their first year, and I just don't think it's going to be. It's not going to be the Eagles, Steelers sort of defense that's keeping you in games and winning you games. It's not that. So I don't think they've improved it enough to crack on past 8 and 9, 9 and 8. I think they're just going to be middle of the road.
I completely agree with that. I don't see these additions making you 10 wins. I don't see it suddenly going to 10, 11 wins. And a lot of that has to do with Kyler Murray. Now, Andrew's argument seems to be that it's Kyler Murray based, and your argument, Adam, seemed to be it was more O-line based, and can that O-line stay stable? So I think it's a combination of both, and I think you both feel that as well. But you're arguing for the sake of arguing your argument, I suppose. but it is, isn't it? It's a combination of all that. And there was strong rumor this year. There was strong rumor this offseason that if Kyler didn't perform in this season, he's going to be out the door at the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if I was a betting man, and because I know my team's really stupid, we'll trade for Kyler Murray in March next season, because we won't have Aaron Rodgers, and that's what will probably happen.
And you won't have a high enough draft pick to get one of the big names. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then the Arizona Cardinals then have let's call it the 11th pick, and let's call it the 14th pick. Enough ammunition to get you to the top 5, really, if you had 10 picks and then did other supplementary picks along with that as well. So I don't really believe in the coach. I don't really believe in Kyler. I just think we sat all 3 of us 5 years ago, and we're like, when they brought JJ Watt in, what was that, 5-6 years ago now? No, not as long as that.
Not quite that long ago, but
all right, maybe 4 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember us doing these previews, and they brought JJ Watt in, and we looked at their squad and we were like, this team is either the young guys are either at the top level, or they've got their guys going into their prime. They had a season where they just looked a little bit lacking experience. They brought that experience in, and we were like, wow, this team's really going to kick on. They've brought the experience in house now. They've got their younger guys, and it feels like the younger guys that were good, that was sort of their peak of their good. And a lot of them have gone now, the likes of Sean Murphy Bunting and players like that. And then they've not drafted that well, and they've not really got brought in that well in the last few years. Yes, Marvin Harrison's going to be is a stud player. He is a stud player, but it's not exploded like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow in that first season. It might take some time, which is completely fair. It does with certain players, but we never saw the kick on. And I always say about these 8 and 9, 9 and 8 teams that from season to season, there might be 1 or 2 of them games that they lost, but I think then they might win the next year, like the Vikings last season. Also, how I feel about the Vikings this season, where they might lose some of them. I think for the Cardinals, it's tipping the way where they might lose some of these games now, to be honest with you.
I think it could go either way. I don't think you're wrong at all. It really could go either way, but it's just, I think that, to me, I suppose you just look at the roster and you look at it from a statistics point of view and stuff like that, and you just sort of see, well, in theory, they've improved.
Week 2 will be the game where we know how good they are, won't it? They got Carolina week 2, haven't they? Yeah. That would be a good test, because I think Carolina have improved. So it's 2 teams we're saying. I think you guys may have said they've improved. So basically 2 teams that have improved, which one's improved the most? I think that's the game to watch to see where the Cardinals are at. It's got 49ers after that. So, I think that week 2.
I think all the way up to the bye week, it's a little bit like this is fight or die every game. You're at the Saints to start the season. You host the Panthers. You're at the 49ers. You host the Seahawks. You host the Titans. You're at the Colts. You host the Packers. I mean, if it was any other team, you'd maybe look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially 6 wins. I see 1, 2 maybe for them. I just think they're they're still on the losing side of history, unfortunately. I think Arizona, and they might need to do a lot more before they get onto the winning side of it.